Hello, my name is Ryan Cooper Thomas, and today I want to talk to you about using pivot tables. Here's some information regarding property information in the state of Georgia. It shows us who own the property, where the property is, the type of property it is, and how much the property was sold for in 2013, 2012, and I think this is 2011 to 2013. Yeah, 2012 to 2013, and on what date it was sold. So there's about 8,000 sales here that have information regarding real estate, and we want to use pivot tables to look at some simple information. So pivot tables are used to um, aggregate or sort through a large amount of data in a very simple way. So let's look at how Excel does that. In order to use pivot table, you go to data, and then you want to go to click pivot table. And so first it's going to guess what cells you want to use, and here it guessed correctly. We want to start at cell A1 and we want to finish at K 8,053. That's how much information we have. And we want to use a new worksheet just to keep everything clear, but you could use the same spreadsheet um, in order to look at the information. So we're going to select new worksheet, then we click OK, and it brings us to a different sheet here. As you can see here at the bottom, all it really does is just open up a different tab. So here we have the real estate data, and in sheet 3 we're looking at the pivot table. And so if we wanted to know, for example, how much each zip code had in property sales, we will want to first look at all the zip codes. So in order to do that, you want to click and hold zip code, and you want to drag it to row labels. And out of that 8,053 rows of information, we have about 59 zip codes that are represented. And in order to look at the sales price per zip code, we just drag the sales price to the values area. And then here it shows you the amount of sales per zip code and the grand total of sales in 2012 to 13. So as we can see here, there's about $1.7 billion in sales, property sales, in the state of Georgia. And for example, if we let's look at zip code 32225, had 149 million, roughly 150 million of property sales in 2013. Also, you can look at the average. For example, if you wanted to look at the average of sales, you would just click on the information icon, and you can summarize the information by count, average, or product, maximum, minimum. So let's say we wanted to look at the maximum sales in each zip code. So we'll click max here, select OK, and then the information changes. We see per zip code in the same zip code 32225, the highest selling property was $1.9 million. Okay, so that's another way to kind of look at count, average, summation. We were looking at the summation at first, and we saw that there's $149 million. So that's cool. That's cool, and that's neat. But there are other ways that we can use pivot tables. For example, let's say we wanted to look at how much each zip code sold on a monthly basis. And that way we will want to look at zip code. So we will put zip code, since this is our base of information. We want to use, we will put zip codes in the row labels, and then we will click and drag sales date month in the column labels. So this will look at the information on 1 through 12 in each column to determine, well, what was the sales price. So in order to look at that, we'll click and hold sales price and put that in the values area. So once we do that, we can see how much, give us a horizontal and vertical analysis here, but how much per zip code in each month was spent. So if we look at the first zip code here, there's 32202, we can see in January, February, March, April, and May, there were no sales, but in June and July, there were two sales that happened. Well, altogether, this is how much money was spent in property sales for the month of June, and here's the month of July. Another thing is that they look at the grand total per month. So out of all of the zip codes in represented in the data, this is how much they spent in January, February, March, and so on. And this is how much they spent per zip code. Here are the grand totals by zip code for the year. So you're probably wondering what just happened there. Well, if we look at sheet 3, this is where we're working from, and let's say you double-clicked on one of the zip codes. It will bring you to exactly, how did that happen? Double-click, it'll show you by zip code, and break it down in more detail. The owner, where they are, where the properties are, what city it's in, and here's the sales price. So you get a better detail. If you wanted to go back to the original database or data platform, you just go here to sheet 3, and it takes you back to the original pivot table. So this is just a brief explanation of pivot tables and how we use them. Thank you for watching, and look forward to my next videos.